Going to be talking about the worlds of the 15th century. In class, when we talk about transitioning from ancient history to modern world history, we really got to focus on the 15th century, which is the 1400s to the 1500s. This is a huge transitional time for people, especially in how people organize themselves, what type of governments they use. So we're going to be looking at these changes in the way people organize themselves. Today we're going to specifically look at stateless societies. These are societies that had structure to them, but not necessarily a government with laws and a police and organizations like that. And we'll get to empires later next week. So who are these stateless societies? The first stateless society we're going to see is the Paleolithic people. These are what we call hunters and gatherers. They depended on the food around them, what they could find through nature. The men were hunters, the women were gatherers, but they actually had a lot of gender equality, which we're going to look more into tomorrow. We see this pretty much all around the world, Middle and South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and just a way to survive. We're going to look a lot more into them to see their state. So even when people had the opportunity to farm, the agricultural revolution occurred, people still continued to hunt and gather, specifically in Australia, Africa, and North America. And if you look at this image on the right, it tells us a lot about the hunter and gatherer societies. Their homes definitely aren't permanent. They're temporary homes that can be built quickly and taken down quickly. They don't have a lot of package or luggage with them. They're ready to go at any time. And where they are, they're by the river, because oftentimes with the river you can fish. There's vegetables, there's fruit, but also a lot of wildlife near the rivers, animals that they could hunt. So really, really interesting people. The next group we're going to look at is agricultural village societies. These are small farming societies, not empires. They did not really have a police or a government or laws. They just coexisted with one another. They usually had a structure through kinship, or which is family. And we're really going to look at the Iroquois, who were here in New York. And if you look at this image on the right, you see that the structures are a little bit more permanent than the hunters and gatherers, because agricultural village societies pretty much stayed put. As I said, we're going to look at the Iroquois, so because North America was made up of many native tribes, and all these individual tribes were independent. They connected a lot, specifically economically and culturally. They wanted to trade a lot, but they also shared a lot of culture, which actually made trade easier because they had a lot in common. The culture that they had in common was that they, for the most part, believed that the world around them was filled with nature spirits, which means a god of the sun, god of the moon, god of the wind, god of the trees. And so they could really connect with that with each other. And because of that, there was high volumes of trade, specifically with salt, flint, feathers, shells, honey, and textiles. Textiles we're going to look at are just clothing. And just fun fact, especially down near Mexico, they use cocoa beans for currency, but we don't necessarily need to know that now. The final group we're going to look at is pastoral people. These were herders. These were people who had groups of sheep or goats and kind of raised them and moved the animals with them. They were very similar to the hunters and gatherers. However, they did not hunt because they took the animals with them. And they did not necessarily gather to survive. Instead of gathering to survive, they raided neighboring civilizations for their goods. So they're oftentimes aggressive people. We're going to look at the Mongols, who were super aggressive people, had a very strong military. If you look on the left here, this yellow area on the map ranging from even parts of Europe, here's the Middle East here, all the way to the eastern parts of China was ruled by the Mongols. And so it's crazy. They had a lot of success in this kind of stateless society. They're very interesting to study, and we're going to look more at them. We call them nomadic people, people who are roaming, kind of don't have a home. So here's a little bit more about the Mongols. Like I said, they have sheep, goats, and cattle, and they just really were great military had a great army, specifically with their archers. This image on the right, archers on horses, really changed the game. Genghis Khan was their leader under their largest rule, and he is actually known as the fourth deadliest ruler in all of history. So we'll talk more about them later. All right, thanks. Bye.